Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. My man, you're muted.
And that just mean I was talking to myself.
Hey, look like you was about to drop a hot 16.
Listen, man, I had a good 24 in me.
Yeah.
I had a good 24, like I was ready. About to Jada kiss this joint.
Yeah, man.
You know what I mean?
How you doing?
I'm doing well, brother. No complaints. Just making the best out of the cards that have been dealt to me. So,
yeah,
you know how that is.
We've been hearing all kind of stuff over the decades. Watch the weather, man. So my heart goes out to everybody that's caught up in the inclement weather.
Mm-hmm.
Hurricane Ida and other things, not just Hurricane Ida, but that's what's in the news, especially Gulf Coast and then And then the Northeast,
Yeah.
Delaware, Philly,
Mm-hmm.
Jersey, New York, shouts out to all corporate trauma community, that might be coming from those metropolitan areas that might be dealing with the inclement weather. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We Jersey boys, you know what I mean? I spent a lot of time in New Jersey, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I had to reach out to my folks today just to check on everybody. How about you?
Yeah, same here, same here. Because I got folks all across Jersey, from the northern part, or let's say like the mid um, section, like Jersey City. It was
Yep.
really not mid, but in that section of Jersey City, so Hudson County, Essex County, and then I got some family down in South Jersey as well. So folks saw a little bit of rain. Some folks saw some flooding, but they didn't experience it directly, and no one was close to the tornado that hit Cherry Hill. So,
Yeah.
but there are some folks out there who many of them know who was impacted. So, definitely prayers out to them.
Yeah, and also, man, just people in general.
Yeah.
These times are just so uncertain, man. I got a call. Do you remember the name Shauna K. Smith?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she was one of our um, she was she was one of our scholars, one of our students, and
Mm-hmm.
man, I got a phone call from another one of our students, former students, who they matriculated through the same leadership development track around
Yeah.
Buckley County. And little did I know, they became best of friends.
Ah.
Um, but I got a call from one of our other scholars. Her name is Lori. To
Mm-hmm.
tell me that Shauna had not been responsive
Ooh.
to email, phone, or text message. And long story short, through really working with her HR department and trying to track her down, she was in the hospital, ICU. And
Wow.
you know, um, she has a terminal condition that is very touch and go right now.
Wow.
And it was the connectivity though
Mm-hmm.
of us as education professionals, right?
Yep.
That one of our former students
Yeah.
contacted and put a, you know what I mean, and just
Mm-hmm.
that cohort being tight and with
Yeah.
each other, not only mentor and mentee, the whole piece together, creating community,
Mm-hmm.
um, really gave us an opportunity to support family and send some good vibes and some prayers up to my little homie Shauna K, who um, who I met in an educational professional capacity. So man,
Mm-hmm.
prayers up to Shauna K. So
Yeah,
I would
definitely.
like to dedicate this particular episode to my little homie.
Mm.
You know what
Word.
I'm saying? As we dive into talking about, man, the life of an educational professional. We
Yeah.
got two great guests coming on that I know we will get a lot from. Um, However, definitely want to kick off this conversation, man. As an
Mm-hmm.
educational professional, Rob, you've heard me say before that
Mm-hmm.
I used to get in trouble for
Mm.
the very same stuff I do for a living, right? Which is building relationships, building community, talking
Yeah.
all the daggone time, annoying the heck out of my teachers, and just really being social. And
Mm-hmm.
my learning process was through the interpersonal relationships with other people, whether
Mm-hmm.
it be the teachers, professors, or whether it be my classmates, right?
Yeah.
Um, and which I'm not surprised I have been drawn one way or the other back to the education experience now as a professional, for more than half of my adult career, out in the workforce. Um, and I found myself in several school environments, right? Whether it be higher learning, secondary, post secondary, elementary school, high school, middle school, right? And it's triggering for me because when you walk into those environments, you remember what it was like to be a student, right?
Yep.
The screeching of sneakers on the floor, the linoleum, the smell of lunchtime, and going into the classroom and desks being arranged in rows. Like you automatically go back to your days. But as a professional, I found myself reflecting on my experience as a student and finding extreme parallels to being a professional. In other words, in a lot of cases, I remember being treated the same way as an adult, as a professional in the educational sector, the same way that I was treated, and some of the same things that I experienced as a student. Something that I had to really, really, you know what I'm saying, get my head around. What about
Mhm.
you?
Yeah, outside of when I go into those buildings, I for the first time I realized how short I was. Right, I don't ever really remember being short.
Right.
Right, I go into those buildings, I'm like, man, like my head is like right here. Especially when I went into my elementary school, and I was like, man, this building was huge. Right, and it's crazy how some of those places bring back so many memories. The craziest thing when I just think about what you said and then I relate it to my personal experiences, a lot of the things in the world are not personalized to the individuals that they're supposed to be built for. Right. So when we think about jumping into education and when we think about all of the things that make you awesome, they were there early on.
Right.
Right? But because the system isn't made to nurture who you are, right? So I don't know if the system expects for it to be taken care of at home, or is it supposed to be taking care of the place that has you for the most time throughout 6, 7, or 8 months. But when we think about it, so much about who you are could be nurtured at an early age where you could have been doing shows, you could have been interviewing people, you could have been asking questions. There's so many different things that you could have been doing that could have been working on perfecting your ability to speak, your ability to learn and actually understand people just by hearing or seeing how they move, right? And then on my end, it's one of those situations where I understand more now about why I would struggle in class. Like I learn, I'm an auditory learner, but as I'm learning through hearing, I'm visualizing what you're saying and putting it into place. And as a young person, it took me a long time. Like I couldn't process, man, I understood it in class, but I can't catch it at home. And there would always be things that I was missing or steps I would miss as I was visualizing. And then
Yep.
as you become an adult and you become more accustomed with how you learn, you start to realize, okay, man, I only can dream and imagine what this person is saying, visualize what this person is saying in pockets. I can't sit there and get lost all day. Like I would be in math class trying to figure out how these things connect. And as I'm trying to figure out how they connect, they've already moved from one set of problems to Pythagorean theory, however you say it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
all right, we move to the A plus the B equals the C and all these other pieces. And I'm over here on the last piece and saying, oh, okay, I can see how that makes sense for my life. So I've always been one of those type of people who was trying to pull it together. And working with me, that's exactly what I do. I'm always trying to figure out how are these things relevant to who we are, what we do, and where we see ourselves going. And if somebody would have known, even if whether it was my parents or the people in school would have understood how I processed information and how I tried to connect the dots, I could have had us on Mars by
Thank you.
now.
Thank you. Like for
you know,
real. Like
yeah.
no, that's a real statement. Like
I'm laughing, but I'm serious.
I feel the same way, right? And and the biggest problem I have, and I'm so glad that we have the caliber of individuals that we have as guests tonight that's going to take us through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I realized that as a education professional, part administrator, right, at times, part educator at times, right, partner to the educational experience, that the pressure of education based on where we came from and a lot of the environments that I've participated in this very, very admirable practice, which is preparing the future generation to take leadership, right? The pressure of the education experience is all on the student.
Yes.
And the professional in a lot of cases gets the royal treatment. Like I'm looking at some of this stuff, man, and a lot of educational professionals, don't get me wrong, take their craft very serious and they put the pressure on themselves. However, the way the educational system is set up, especially for public education, the teachers aren't under nowhere near as much pressure and stress in a lot of situations as the student is to learn, right? The pressure and urgency to educate and to be a good teacher is imbalanced. And a lot of our experiences in education is trauma informed. So one of the things that triggered me so much was walking into these situations and feeling as an empathetic individual and feeling the anxiety of the students and the scholars because they were under so much pressure to perform in midst of so many different obstacles, man. And a lot of the educators, man, could hide, show up, and leave. Like I've been in schools where the bell rung and some of the educators are running for their car right after school. They got to get out of town. Like just incredible stuff. You know what I mean? So and the pressure is not built for the children, right? It's not built for the scholars. It's not. They have to absorb information and get used to their level, their understanding and their learning style. Like that's an ongoing practice. But you're gonna put pressure on top of that? Nah, it's your fault because you don't know your times tables. For the third grade. No, that's the adult. That's the adult's fault.
Isn't but think about it though. Isn't it so funny? You even gave a small disclaimer when you said what you said at first, because it's already expected that people will take that as a shot directly at them as the individual compared to as the whole. I'm always saying to folks, whether it's on the high school or the college level, point to me the true customer, right?
Man, say that one more time for the people in the
point to me the true customer, right? And then after you point to me the true customer, then I want you to tell me who are all the rules and regulations built for, right? Who's truly protected? Who's truly being looked at, and whose voices are truly being heard when decisions are being made? And I'm not saying that adults should just be completely overruled. I'm not saying teachers and administrators, but truly understanding not just their voice, but what they need. Right. I feel like I shared in session one, in podcast one, and we were talking about education. And I said, folks will talk about how students may live in poverty. They may be hungry. They may be a number of different things. And peace, Sister Muhammad. They can talk about a number of different things.
Right.
And then not have an idea of what's necessary to get them over that hump, right? Folks will deal with hunger and you'll give them something to eat. Folks will say, well, they don't have nowhere to stay. They'll say, okay, well, maybe you can stay on campus. So often we're giving Tylenol and Advil to problems and never figuring out what the symptom is. And for me, I'm always telling folks, listen, the biggest thing that you can do for students, Black, brown, poor, impoverished, white, whatever the case may be, is give them access. if someone lacks access, give them access to the things that can help them reach the level that they need to get to. You can give me a fish at the same time, but you can't just give me a fish in a place to stay and say figure it out when I don't even know what's up, what's down, what's left, and what's right. So, for me, I'm always trying to figure out, like, hey, who's the customer? What do they truly need? And why are they in the situation that they're in? And are you willing to help them solve the problem and deal with the symptom on the back end?
Yo, who speaks for the trees? Like the Lorax. You know what I'm saying? Like for
Who?
real. I'm serious, man. Like the children.
The Lord. He said, "Who speak for the trees?" No, you got to say that again because people ain't catch that.
The trees, man. You know what I'm saying?
Who's that? The Lorax? You said Lorax?
The Lorax. Hey, man, I'm a Toys R Us kid. There's a million toys in Toys R Us that
that's a Dr. Seuss one.
I never grew up. You know what I'm saying?
But there's nothing wrong with that.
An older, taller version of my sixth grade self, right? And I love it because I'm having fun with it. Because at some point, somebody came to me and told me who I was. Which was a child at the time.
Yep.
And put me in my proper place, perspective, right? And I was able to embrace the educational experience because I felt the adults had my back. Like there were so many times I didn't feel like the adults had my back. Like I'm like getting roasted in homeroom. Like who gets roasted in homeroom? You know what I'm saying? So man, I can speak I can speak so much and so intimately, per my own experience as a student, as a scholar, as a professional. Hey, but like every week, Rob, we not the subject matter experts.
Yeah.
In this case. And so, man, I'm so excited as I am every week. We're gonna add our subject matter experts to the conversation. Man, welcome.
We got a quad today.
Look, man, that's Donkor and that's Rayna. Like I say their names with emphasis on the right syllables, you know what I'm saying, to bring light to who these two really are. Like now, these I think these are our first guests from the city of Boston. But let me make this very clear.
Oh, go ahead, do your job.
Difference, right, between Boston and Roxbury, right? Okay. There's a big difference when the world says, "Hey, you from Boston?" I didn't even know black people was in Boston. But when you say Roxbury, right, there's a certain ring to Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. And these two wonderful professionals whom are personal friends of mine, people that I've learned so much from, that I look up to so much. The history of Roxbury, right, in the 50s and the 60s, it was primarily a Jewish community. And when our Jewish community in the city of Boston started to move to the outskirts to cities like Needham, Dedham, and Brookline, the city of Boston started to gentrify the areas where black people live, like Beacon Hill and the South End. So now black folks, brown folks started to move into these areas called Roxbury, displacing people that stole land from the people that look like the people that's on this call right now. And so when I look at these two, right, I've always looked at them as the heir apparent, right? The reclaiming of the land, because Boston and Roxbury in particular is a wonderful cross section of so many different type of melanated people, from our Caribbean brothers and sisters from the islands, man, right, to our Cape Verdean brothers and sisters, and then those that are the descendants of the enslaved that migrated up north from areas like Florida, Georgia, the Carolinas, Mississippi, and Alabama. And these two have taken on the challenge of being wonderful education professionals, and they still are the heir apparent. I don't care what they say, where they go, what they do. But I just want to introduce and say wonderful, nice things. That's what they paid me to do offline to these two, my friends, Donkor, Rayna. Say what up to the corporate trauma community. What's up, people?
Hello, everyone. How are you? How's it going? Thank you for that beautiful introduction.
Listen.
It wouldn't be any other way. Hey, Donkor, I'm ready for you, man.
I'm waiting for him to say something. I ain't gonna say nothing until he go.
I'm ready, Donkor. I'm ready for you, man. What's up, man? Tell the people a little bit about yourself. Come on.
First of all, I don't know how anybody can follow up after you gas us up. I mean, now you done created a huge anticipation. I feel like I gotta sound all extra educated today. Yeah, so my name is Donkor. The brand ambassador for the Don Firearms. Looking forward to a great conversation with you guys today. And extremely grateful to be a part of your corporate trauma podcast.
Excellent.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rayna, founder and president of Who's Got Morale, former educator in the Boston Public School systems. We got the babies in the background. This is our world right now. So I was a teacher and then principal, and recently just left all of that. Decided to stay home with my children and do my business. Support Donkor with his business as best as I can. So that's where we at right now.
No, that's wonderful. And I don't know if you caught that, Rob. They used to be formally in the educational system, and they decided to do other things. Donkor represents the Don Firearms, where he's given responsible training and taking his experience as an educator to a different sector of our community with really showing them the responsible way to take on their amendment right to carry and bear arms in a responsible way, but not just bullets and guns. This is like this is a whole type of a wraparound approach to a very sensitive subject for our people. And then Rayna with Who's Got Morale is taking outside of the box approach to coaching, mentoring, and bringing people through a healthy experience, whatever they're trying to do and accomplish with their professional lives. So I really respect the work that these two are doing. And if you haven't figured it out by the similarity of the noise in the background, they are life partners. They're a husband and wife. They're married, power couple, and they got two babies in the background. Look, this is a evening podcast where we want everybody to feel comfortable being at home, because that's where I'm at. You know what I'm saying? And so don't be shy about it. Because if you can hear Rob's children in the background too.
Listen. You can hear my whole crew. They just went to the pool, so I'm good. It's gonna be nice and quiet. Well, right, I'm gonna tell you this one thing. I sat there and I said, okay, so she must be in the classroom. Right? Because I saw the back room. I saw the back. And then I was like, all right, I don't know where he is. But when he did the little flip, when they did the little flip, I said, wait, those sound like the same kids. They're like, those are the same. Okay. So they doing, okay. I like it. But I will say, man, kudos to Jamal, because Jamal does this thing that I couldn't even pull it off. Right? I don't even have that many words in my vocabulary when I talk about other people to be able to like really draw and bring things together. But he told me so much about you guys. I'm happy to have y'all on. And something that jumps out to me, to have a whole entire family go full time for themselves, one is awesome, but y'all got some awesome ideas also. Right? It just sounds to me like y'all got some stuff brewing and y'all got a lot of things going on. And I know, Jamal, we got some stuff coming up around. How did y'all get there? Like, what was that jump? Like something was it like a storm came through one day, was like, listen, I'm done with this whole thing. I'm done with all of y'all. See, if I start asking the questions, I'm going to hype the question up. So let me just stop there. Because
you already know where I'm going.
Oh, it was one of them? It was one of them? Because I'm just trying to figure out what in the world happened. Was it one of them situations where y'all came in the house both of y'all came in with like a little blood here, but you won the fight. You was like, hey, just imagine what they look like. Right? But we done. I'm done. And then he was like, Don was like, oh yeah, I'm done too. Oh, we both done at the same time. And y'all threw up the fingers at the same time. Like I threw up one finger, like one on that end, one on that end. Right? It was the deuces. But you see, I did it real fast, so you might have thought it was the deuces. But was it one of those situations? Like, I'm asking questions. Usually I'm not the person to ask questions, but I'm actually very intrigued because I'm trying to figure out how both of y'all y'all got in the ship and went somewhere completely different. And they said, wait, both of y'all leaving? Yes, both of us.
Hey, Rob, that's a good ass question.
I
took it. Okay, I took it from your question, but as I'm listening, I heard the kids in the background. They in the same house, but they doing something completely different in some capacity. Oh, they got him. They got him. They got him. They got him. They said, yo, come here, Dad. Come here, Dad. They got him. Man.
Oh, that was funny.
I thought the people got you. Listen, I've experienced it.
That is hilarious. No, we both were teachers in Boston Public Schools. We both work in schools in Roxbury, as Jamal talked about. And the funny thing about both of us is we went to independent private schools. And part of my story and why I stayed in working in Boston and in Roxbury in particular is because I had this comparison of what education, all of the bells and whistles of education, and then I come back home and see what education was like for our children, for our families, and it was devastating. And I have a background in health and education, so my thing has always been about integrating health into the education system for our young people, providing them with information that they need to support themselves and support their families. I've always worked in high school, so my children were always working, coming to school, hustling, doing everything. So I always tried to give them what they needed to have the best life outside of those school walls. I became a principal, and I was a principal for 5 years. And my thought was, okay, I'm in charge. I can make a difference in this position. And the level of difference I was able to make was minuscule based on what our children and their families were going through. Right. Based on what our children and their families were going through. And we had 2 daughters, and we made a vow that we're not sending them to public school. We're going to homeschool them. And homeschooling, working full time, being unhappy with what was happening in the system was just, it was overwhelming. And so actually 5 years ago, I started my nonprofit, which is really about supporting our families in the community with understanding their trauma and supporting them with coping mechanisms and really understanding the history and root of where their trauma comes from. And that was really picking up. And then COVID happened and showed me like, hey, you could do this. Like I can do this work, and I don't have to depend on an institution to affirm me.
Right.
And I jumped the boat, and then 2 weeks later, Donkor was like, oh, I just put in my resignation. I said, what?
You thought you was gonna leave without me? You thought you was gonna leave without me?
Oh man.
Listen, that makes so much sense. It makes it so much easier if your wife go first. I'm gonna just tell y'all something real quick. When I was I was working somewhere different, right? And they was messing up my money. Yeah. When I tell you they was messing my money, I wasn't getting them checks fast enough. They wasn't coming on time. Right? My wife said, you should probably drive Lyft. I said, not me. Not happening. I said, I got 2 master's degrees. I'm highly educated, well-spoken. Real. I've helped and saved thousands of people. I'm not driving a cab. And then one day she was in the house and her phone went ding. She said, oh, I'm about to go pick somebody up. I said, what you mean? Look at Donkor. He backed up. Hey, I tell you no. Listen. Dog. She went outside and she started driving Lyft. And every ounce of my pride shrunk, right? It shrunk to the point of, there's no such thing as pride when your wife willing to get dirty, right? And I shared and I finished the application that night and I went and got it in because in my mind I said there's no way I can let her do something that I won't do. And I just see that when I heard you say when I heard you say, hey, he quit right like a week or two after me, I said, oh, it makes sense. Because if he came home talking about he quitting first, you're probably like, boy, you don't sit down talking about you about to quit. Yo, then where you going? You better stop.
Hey, hold up. We can't hear Donkor. You on mute.
Listen.
Hey, this is a recorded line. I'm not trying to get caught up. She might go back to this. But yeah, no, that's literally what happened. Like you hit that nail right on the head because it just got to a point where your professional journey there are some things that come with the territory. And there are some things that you should be able to accept and you should be able to through and around and figure out strategies. But when you're talking about Black children, there had to be a line drawn in the sand for me. And it began to become a thing where it was like, upset and frustrated because I know that there's something that the community needs, but the people who hold the checkbook and are my superiors are not willing to put in the work or even just give me the green light to do the work. Then it became a thing about integrity, and I'd rather have been out of the way and been able to do something that I thought would be able to be effective outside of the system than to remain within it. And mad respect to a lot of the elders who were strategic enough and able to find a way to work within it and still be able to get the work that needs to get done for our people in the community. But I saw a meme the other day that said that our generation, anyone born between like 75 and like 90, is a generation of like, yo, F your job, I'm out. And I really believe that. Like,
that's correct.
Because it comes down to like between the wages, the stress, bringing, the agreement that my wife and I made that, I used to violate a lot was like, yo, don't bring your stuff from work home into this house, but like when we're both working in education, like it was really hard because it's like, these are children's lives. And in some cases, in a lot of cases, it was the children that live right up the block. Like I see their parents. I see what they're doing when they're not in the classroom. You know what I'm saying? Like,
it was our nieces and nephews, like literally our family members. So
wow. Man, I have so much respect for the both of you. But one of the things that I always reflect on is how you both support each other in what you do, because a lot of what you do is the same yet very, very different. And I look at my relationship right with my wife the same way. I was in a situation where, man, we was on the same job, kicking behind, rewrote the rules, metrics, and everything, right? And then because the organization had a different idea, they tried to say, well, y'all aren't as engaged as you used to be, so we're giving y'all warning. This is the conversation before the evaluation, so y'all not under no surprise. So my wife and I went upstairs immediately. I looked at her and she looked at me. I was like, yo, you ready? You ready to be out? She was like, yes, we are out, right? And no kidding, everything else started to align. I'm talking about, this was a residential program. We had somewhere to stay. We had different jobs. We boom, 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 everything lined up. Because it's already one thing when an individual makes up their mind, but when two people with compatible yet different ideas make their mind up together, it's like everything moves out the way. The universe bows to that. So I really respect that. And that's what I hear. That's what I hear in that story with you, Rob, and that's what I hear with you, Donkor and Rayna. But my God, right? This is the Level Up Past Corporate Trauma podcast, right? We don't just talk about the crazy stuff that we deal with as professionals. We talk about how to level up. I would love for y'all to go into a little bit more detail if you feel comfortable in telling us how and what made you choose to level up the way that you did. Like Donkor, you're literally teaching people there. You went from the classroom to teaching people their amendment right to bear arms. And Rayna, you went from the classroom to the principalship, to really telling people, you know what, you need to slow down and you need to put in some work to figure out where your mindset comes from and where it's taking you and how we can pivot and shift you. Those are just amazing level. Like, you took a bag of lemonade, a bag of lemons. You didn't just make lemonade with it. You made a whole concession stand out of that thing. How did that happen? How did that happen? I think that's a very important aspect of the story that I would love for our audience to hear.
So, one of the things for me was, Jamal, about the young men that, I was working with from the school system that I used to meet with monthly at the house, and you actually hosted us for our very first retreat weekend. So one of the things that happened for me was I was trying to find a medium to explain and take away the shame that a lot of our young men have for not going to college. So I wanted to model for them. All right, well, if college isn't your thing, how do you take something you love and turn it into a business so you can live off of? So for the first 5 years, there was even no name. There was no the Dawn Firearms. But I just was trying to figure out a way to show the young men, I love firearms. I need to figure out a way to pay for ammo and buy guns. It's not tapping into my rent or mortgage money. So how do I turn this passion so it can make money for itself? So I started doing that for a couple of years. And then at the height of the riots and, just the police brutality, I think a lot of our people woke up very quickly. Black women in particular represented 9 million new gun owners in the year of 2020 alone. So I got extremely successful last year, and then started to figure out, well, how can I continue to do this work and to alleviate the stress of having to be at the job every day where I don't feel happy. I'm every day that I'm going in, I'm being asked to sacrifice a piece of myself, and then they use words like security, think about your children, and you're like, nah, yo, like there's gotta be another way for me to do this. This can't be life. I think of that Beanie Siegel song, right?
Right.
So that's ultimately how I did it. Each step of the way I modeled, I shared my story with the young men. I literally paid off all my school loan debt from this hustle, which was like extremely, extremely inspirational for me, much less to show it to the young men. And once I was able to do that, I was sold, like literally just wrote 2 checks and was like, yo, deuces, Sally, man, I'm done with you. Like, no more phone calls ever. Like, so once that was taken care of, it alleviated a lot of the strain on the monthly budget. You know what I'm saying? And that's when I began to start figuring things out. Like, man, like if all I gotta really worry about is gas, food, and the mortgage, it's like that ain't that much. You know what I'm saying? And if I could buy that time back and get that time back to spend with these ragamuffins, she's giving me nasty look. Then I'd much rather do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, because I'm not gonna send my kid to to be a part of the very system that I was fighting against, trying to express to them how awful they were, and then to send my child to them, that's like huge attack on my integrity. I just can't do that. And that's no disrespect to anyone that does that, and I'm not trying to
None taken.
all right, okay. So I just I'm trying to mature in my life. So I'm trying to make sure that people that be listening don't be catching feelings when they
Hey, this is a kinder, gentler Donkor.
Yes, I'm getting better, Jamal.
Hey, Donkor, people are going to be offended regardless.
Right.
Like if nothing else is true, I've tried that for the past like 15 years, and it doesn't matter how I give it to them. They were like, "Man, F you, Rob," and I'm like, "Oh, but I'm here to." Oh, this dude. You know. So listen.
I worked side by side with Jamal, so Jamal knows what it looked like for me. It was ugly, and I realized that, you know, my uncle, what he said about you don't have to walk into every fight you're invited to. So, you know, I try to alleviate the amount of fights I'm in.
Yeah. For me, I think my path to getting out of the system, and it's not easy because they pay you well, right? They pay you well. You get summers off. You get all the holidays, good health care. It's not easy to say I'm gonna leave all that behind. But I think for me was 2 years ago when my youngest daughter was born, and I was nursing, and going to work actually forced me to stop nursing my child. And I think I went through like a little depression because I'm like leaving my child and going to work, and they're not appreciative of the sacrifices that me as an individual have to make. Like literally, I'm unable to nurture my child.
Wow.
Because I'm coming to school to take care of other children who need taken care of, but the sacrifice was my own baby, and that hurt me. And I actually started to not like my job anymore. I started to feel like the fight for it wasn't worth what I was getting in return. And I would go to work every day like I can't do this. And I worked at an alternative high school, and I was working with young people out of juvenile facilities and working with young people that other schools would just throw out. And that was sad. It was sad to see the generational trauma, the generational devastation. And we would be doing the healing work at the school. That was our primary work. Education came second to that, or even third or fourth. And we were doing healing work, and that's what Donkor and I have been doing at the side for as long as I've known Donkor.
Right.
And so I was just like, this isn't worth it. It's not worth sacrificing my children. I'm doing the work that I want to do anyways. And the money, I always went by the mantra, the money will come. And so COVID hit, and I was able to, as I was saying before, work from home, be with my children, really get into the homeschooling stuff. And my nonprofit was making money. So I told myself, if I hit this number, which would be like a year's worth of salary, if I hit that number, I'm leaving. I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out.
And then you tripled that. And then you tripled that number.
Listen, I was telling Donkor yesterday, God is my best friend, because I swear we had to go back. They said, everybody back in schools. We got back in schools. And my secretary was like, you should look into, she said, look into this. And I did. And I started doing some calculations, and just like, boom, I had that number. It didn't even take like 2 weeks. I just wasn't looking in the right places. Ooh. And so she was like, just call up these people, which was like the retirement board or whatever, and see what you can do. And I did, and they was like, oh no, you could just take what X amount of money that you need, and I was like, word, like it was there. and it's my money. So like, I'm not planning to work here 57 years and die in this system. So I'm gonna do what I love. I got the number, everything. Listen, as God is my witness. God is my best friend.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I asked and I received.
Well,
And
I ain't got that number yet.
Well, you didn't ask.
Ooh.
Hold on. That's a different podcast. That conversation right there is a different podcast. That's a different.
But no. But you know what though? You know what? I'm happy I'm not on mute. One, I'm gonna clap it up for that one, because the comeback is truly what we be needing.
That's right.
And I'm not just talking about men. I'm talking also about us as Black folks, as people of color, and especially like Donkor was saying, and then taking what Rayna just said, we come behind probably one of our best generations. They did a lot of praying and a lot of boots on the ground. Right. And then that Gen X generation of folks who was actually the what's the movie I'm thinking about? The ones who actually were the Cosby Kids. I'm not saying that they were Cosby Kids, but the ones who were going different world stuff, right?
That'd be me.
They got that. I know that's you. They got that first onslaught of a lot of those benefits, right? Or the second onslaught, and then you get the folks who are born in the 80s. And now it's one of those situations. Are you asking for what you want? Are you willing to do something that people who came before you wouldn't do? Right? There's some folks who came before you right now, Rayna, who would have said, I'm not leaving my retirement. What, you crazy? And for me, I tell folks all the time, do the calculation. How many years you plan on working? Because when I looked at it, I got 30. And that's without them taking it to 70. That's me just, bro. That's a whole entire bit. I said, who's about to sit here and put up with anybody nonsense for 30? For 30 just to get to the big bucks. So when you get there, you realize most of the folks who are there are stupid. They're not as smart as you. You could have took 9 of your peoples from whatever community you came from. Y'all could flip the whole entire system around and change a whole bunch of lives. And I remember I said this to Jamal, and I'll stop here. I said, we got to get out of the idea of, especially as Black folks, being trapped up in these organizations, ridiculously smart, talented, and allowing a small group of people to keep us in there, telling us that we can get to the top one day, right? Because ultimately we're sitting there, and I said to Jamal, we got some dope people up in here, Black women, Spanish women, Black men. We had the whole entire gambit, and we all up in here sitting on the bus with a person who's trying to figure out how to do a K-turn. You know what I mean? And just sitting there, and at some point in time, you just got to say to yourself, one, we get caught up not wanting to be all cocky, and I'm past that. If I'm dope, I'm dope. When I walk out the house and the crickets be chirping, I chirp back, right? And I'm just like, listen, I'm with all the smoke. And on my worst day, I'm probably just as smart as you, right? And I'm just as talented as you, and I'm okay with that. And I tell folks, if I go somewhere and I'm speaking and I'm like, yo, I come from inner city, Jersey City, New Jersey. I've seen all the things that these other people have seen. There's just decisions that I did not make that allow me to be here today. How can we be more intentional, right? And I guess maybe that's the question, because I feel like it kind of works with, man, y'all got me asking questions. And if y'all ever watch any of these shows, I don't ask no questions, but I'm so excited.
You in your bag.
But
before you ask that question, I want you to ask that question. I want to make sure that we highlight what Donkor and Rayna just said. It didn't happen overnight, right? They had to listen to that voice. They had to listen to their bodies. They had to listen to their spirit, right? Rayna wasn't asking for Birkin bags and red bottoms, right? Donkor wasn't trying to lease the Bugatti, right? Like there's a certain, well, maybe he was, I don't know, but there's a certain methodology to the idea of freeing yourself in order to make sure that you can do what you need to do for your family as a professional by taking care of yourself so that you can be your best, you know what I'm saying, and not give it to the things that aren't as high a priority, right? Like not being able to nurture your child for the sake of not losing ground in the career advancement that you work so hard to gain. Now you're gonna give it back because you decide to give life to somebody else. Like that math just does not make sense to me. Like, what do we like? That's the mixed messages in the corporate industrial complex. Come on, get a career, go to school, be the best you can be, but don't have a baby. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I just wanted to make sure we hit that before we went on to the next question.
I just want to add something that Rob said. Talking about the different generations. I think one of the hardest, most painful things, especially because it was coming from an elder that I respect and I still respect him, but he started saying things to me like, man, just, there's some things you just got to let go, so that way you could get to the bigger goal. And it's like, I don't want to cuss, but it was like, bleep, there's kids dying in the street. Like, what the F are you talking about? Like, nah, I can't sit here, go home. I'm driving a BMW and there's kids in the projects who are in my classroom every day that are dying. Like, I don't feel comfortable with that. Like, I can't look myself in the mirror and be able to put on the scales of my aunt and say like, nah, oh, this is okay because, once, my age and my years in the system add up, I can retire 80%. It's like, yeah, some things, are not for sale. That's actually my wife's motto for the Who's Got Morale. It's sold, not for sale. And and that's one of the big mantras for us. Like, as she said earlier, like, the money will come as long as you focus on the work. But for me, one of the biggest things about getting out was like when the elders started basically kind of like quelling the righteous rage, with the intent of securing the position. Then it was like, for me, it was like, then I can't be a part of this. And I definitely am not going to go against Black elders and publicly ostracize them. Like, I'm not going to do that. But at the same time, I'm also not going to, behind closed doors, let you basically sun me, for this end goal that's completely selfish and not based in the total betterment for the community.
Right. Yo, Rob, ask your question, man.
My goodness, bro, y'all gonna kill me today, right? Y'all gonna kill me today. That whole entire statement, like your follow up to what I said, makes me I have to say something else. Like when this idea that, hey, let some of these little things go. These little things are people, right? These little decisions that we make, for this grander goal, impact so many people. And I give you an idea. As soon as you said it, I'm gonna tell you what came to mind. Iran-Contra impacted my house directly. When we think about whoever it was in the Reagan White House who decided they're going to help fund the war in South America and give guns to folks in South America by putting in Central America by giving guns by selling guns to one spot, right? Buying guns from one spot. Damn, I'm all mixed. Y'all got me mixed up today, right? But I do know it's coming to me. Taking drugs, putting it into Black communities so that you can buy guns and give those guns to folks in Central America, which, if I'm not mistaken, were the Contra, right? When you process that idea, was like, man, we really got to do this because this is going to make a lot of sense because it's going to help us take care of this issue. That one decision impacts our community so harshly that if you imagine somebody like Donkor or Rayna who's in there and they raise hell, whether they quit or they go public, that could change the outlook for Black America. And that's one decision. It may not sound big, but when you think about it, it's sometimes those small decisions or those decisions that we think won't impact somebody. Right? There's somebody right now, when they saw both of y'all leave y'all jobs, and they were like, well, they were awesome at what they do. They were awesome at what they did. The trickle down effect. And so he gave us the kudos. He gave y'all the kudos for what y'all done. Like I have to give y'all one of them soul claps or something, right? Because the trickle down effect of people like you leaving and then doing something else is most likely going to be greater than you just being there. And I pray that that's the case.
Yeah, because ultimately, I mean, for me, and Jamal, when he and I worked together, you know, a lot of my thinking was like, why are we spending so much time to sit at somebody else's table? Like, if we took the same time that we are fighting for equity, fighting for inclusion, fighting for all these things, and actually just designed our own table, we'd have the sexiest, dopest table right now. Like, it would be redonkulous, and people would want to come sit at our table. You know what I'm saying? But the psychology has always been, we need to, you know, I think of that Tupac documentary was like, you know, we are hungry, please let us in. You know, like that whole analogy that Pac gave, you know, and I got tired of that. Like, it don't have to be like that. You know, like we have the capacity, we have the skills, you know, and Rob, to your point about that whole A Different World generation, it's like, yo, we got real skills. Like it's not like I just know how to use Microsoft Word. I could type 800 words in a minute. It's like, like I could design cities. I could create structures. I could work with my people to motivate them to do these things. Like it's like when you start to step back and look at that, you're like, this is like, I don't know. I can't speak for my wife, but I know for me, it was hard when people will refer to her and I as like a power couple back when we was like in graduate school, and we're like, the hell are y'all talking about? Like, we out here trying to get the grind. But now looking at it, it's like looking at the amount of work that she and I have accomplished and the impacts that it's have on in just a small group of children. Like, I'm not gonna hold you, just you know, her 5 girls, my 5 young men. And, you know, to see where they're at and what they're doing, it's like, we really did this. This ain't fudged resume work. Like, this is real, you know, community-based work that has had impact on our community. So no more fighting to sit at somebody else's table. You know, ultimately, me walking on away was like, man, let's take this same energy and create our own tables. And part of, you know, what really inspired us was the purchase of this home that we're in right now. You know, I often talk to Jamal a lot about, you know, Sister Clara Muhammad schools, you know, and looking at that model. And I wasn't a product of that, but just hearing about a lot of the Black Muslims that talked about how powerful it was, not only for them, but for their children and their families. It's like, man, our ancestors gave us examples and models. You know, like, we can recreate this. If they could do it with less, we could definitely accomplish it with what we have now. You know, so for me, it was definitely it was that time. You know, and I heard a question earlier that was like, you know, what inspired y'all? And I'll be dead up. You know, Rayna and I went through our own rite of passage journeys. You know, from sassafras, from ayahuasca, from doing, basically landmark education type therapy work that we've done. And there always comes this point where it's like, you identify what the problem is, you know what has been holding you back, you know where your shadows are. And the biggest part of the journey is like, what will you do with it now that you know? Like, there's no boogeyman.
Oh, they got him.
They got him.
They got him. They got him. They got him out the told you. I don't know. I can't speak for no other group of people, but I haven't never been on a call where if somebody talking and they just stop and they freeze. Somebody like they got them. You saying something that's too true, and the system came and got you. Like, because you was about to say all we need is us. You was about to say all we need is us, and they said.
That's for real. That's for real.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you. But you know what though? I know this may get me in trouble in some places, but I will be completely honest. When you look around, we are the only group of people who I feel aren't as intentional about our success. Right? When you go through a lot of our communities, it's like the stereotypical communities a lot of times. Those are the ones that everybody thinks about. But when you talk about other people, and I always say to folks, go to a McDonald's, a franchise McDonald's, and talk to that first person and they speak Spanish. When you get to the front window, everybody in there Spanish. Everybody in. You speak to that first person. That means the next person, if she speaks Espanol, if she's speaking Spanish, when you get to the front, my man gonna call you Poppy. And then when you read the name up there, it's gonna say if you have any comments, contact Juan Rodriguez. The whole entire crew is there. When I go to New Jersey, I went to Bayonne, New Jersey, and I'm driving down, and I said, wait. It was a Chinese distribution center, a Chinese food distribution center. And you go places and you'll see Little Italy. And It will be commerce and companies just for Italian, like all Italian products.
That's right.
And then you sit and we go into our neighborhoods and everybody there. And it's not the issue that they're there. It's just the point that we don't have anything that's, when you look at it, it's like, this is ours. We own this. We run this. This is how we do things. Come here if you want the real McCoy. Like, that's always the thing. Oh, you on pause. You on mute. Look.
I think the biggest reward, Donkor said he started with 5 young men. I started with 5 young women. For us, the biggest reward has been these, and I'm lying to you not. From each of our groups, these young people have their own businesses. They're, running restaurants. They got clotheslines. They have, spa therapy, making music. They have houses. Yes. They're doing great things. And the reward is that they have children, right? And their children are going to have children.
Right. Wow.
And this is what it's about. When you talk about saving a nation, this is where we start.
Right.
And that's the whole premise of Who's Got Morale. It's about changing the generational narrative. And it even makes me proud when my daughter's talking about when she gets older, she wants to be a doctor that delivers babies. And what she always says is that I'm going to do it downstairs in our house. It's going to be on our first floor, and I'm going to do it from home. And this is the waiting room. And she'll go in the rooms and be like, this is where I'm going to deliver the babies. And this is the waiting room. And you're going to help me register the people. I'm like, whatever. I'll clean the windows. Whatever you want me to do.
That's awesome.
Look, she's telling me stop telling her secrets.
It's too late now.
It's out there now.
The whole world knows now.
Yeah, but I mean that's the reward. It's about changing the generational narrative. That's awesome. Even if it's 10 people at a time. Because for me, it doesn't have to be that way. Young people don't have to die in the streets every day.
They don't.
And working in the system, you see it happen. You see the young people dying. Like I was at a graduation. I graduated a young man in June. July, he was gone. Like that is detrimental to a people.
Yes.
And so at some point, like Donkor said, you got to jump. You got to make a decision. Where you going to be? What side you on?
Right. Yes. And you know what? In talking to you too, I was thinking, right? Based on my own personal experience and what I thought would relate to your story, the major paradox, Rob, for an education professional is for the education professional that relates to the population that they are educating more than they relate to the adults who claim to be their colleagues. Because because when you are that type of educator, you find yourself protecting the young people more than you are spending time and being efficient in your energy and teaching them what they need to learn to get to the next level, because you're trying to protect them from Mr. Johnson down the hallway who got an attitude every day and who's triggering, you know what I mean, little Rob, who comes in because Rob ain't, you know what I mean, he only come to school to eat breakfast and that lunch, right, that he hate. But he got to get that meal in. And Mr. Johnson got an attitude, and Mr. Johnson know that little Rob is easy to trigger, right? And now you're the professional. Like I used to be little Rob. So let me say something to him to help him deal with Mr. Johnson. And then let me say something to Mr. Johnson to help him deal with little Rob in a better way without me like going off on Mr. Johnson, right? And
that's when you were better than me, Jamal, because I just went off on Mr. Johnson. Anybody got time for that?
Yo, but there's stories about me too. You know what I mean? So don't bring me. You heard about me. Oh Lord, I was talking about that story the other day, but I digress. Right? Yo, I messed up a lot of relationships just by being angry at the obvious stuff that other people are like, y'all don't see this, like, and so that's just the major trouble. That's the major cause of corporate trauma with education professionals. So what would you advise those that are like you or like-minded are still in those positions trying to do a job? What would you advise?
They gotta start their healing journey, B. Like that, I tell the story, Jamal. I know you remember Supergirl and her two older sisters and stuff like that. I mean, that was the moment for me, when that young girl came to my classroom, those years that we was fighting and you were gone and Sister JB was gone. And that young girl, she said to me, she said, Mr. Donkor, you're not the teacher that my sisters raved about. And that really is what started me on my healing journey. And that's why, Jamal, first of all, I want to say, you probably the realest friend ever because you actually read our mission statement, bro, and can actually say it back to us. So salute to you for that, bro. Like, that's love. You know how many of our friends who are on the board can't even tell us what the mission statement is? But I remember when you used to talk about corporate traumas, even before you started this. And it's a real thing, man. And I started to realize, how my wife, taught me the term vicarious trauma, for being that person protecting the young child that you were talking about, Jamal. Like we inherit a lot of the traumas from the successes and the failures. And we keep going in every day, going in every day, going in every day. And something happens to us, like, trauma, what I have learned is, my elder, he says that trauma is a disruption in the brain, and it's part of that cognitive dissonance, but it's such a violent aggression, you know what I'm saying? Because here it is, I thought the world was like this, but I'm showing up authentic and in myself, proud of myself, and this is what the world has given me. So for those people that are still in it, you can't deny that you are not being impacted and some level of trauma is happening to you, and you got to take a look at that, because I think the realest book that I thought was phenomenal, and I didn't take it no kind of way, but Dr. Chris Emden's book for white teachers that teach in the hood and everybody else. I mean, I think that's a really dope book for educators who think that somehow it's only white people doing these transgressions to our children, and it's not. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the negative impacts on black and brown children in the educational system occur at the hands of other black and brown teachers. You know what I'm saying? So like we all have to start that work, and we all have to be willing to sit and be able to look at the shadows, look at how we show up in our classrooms, at our jobs, even in our own homes. And I believe, that's what we want to be able to do for educators with our Who's Got Morale work. It's like, where do we make it cool for you to be able to take a look at your shit? Pardon my language, but it has to happen, or otherwise we become the problem.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it took that little girl, and I always tell the story, it took that little girl to make me realize I was becoming part of the problem, even as I was fighting for the students in the classroom, trying to get the parents on board to do their, democratic due process to be able to fight against the principal that we had and get this particular teacher out of the school. But even in my commitment to what was quote unquote good, it impacted my work and what my core values were, to how I really wanted to show up for the young people that I was in front of. And had I not started that journey, I mean, I can truthfully say I probably would have been one of those teachers who would have looked at you crazy if you was like, "Yo, D, this ain't who you are." I'd been like, "Man, whatever, you wildin'," But because of that willingness to go on that journey, it really opened up the mirror, wiped it down, and I was able to take a look in and say, "Man, I can't believe this happened to me," and I want to do something better. And that Will Smith video where he talks about jumping out that airplane, bro, like that video for me was huge, yo. Like if I saw Will Smith one day, I would dap him up and say, "Yo, that video changed my life," because it's so real. Like there has to come a time when you are just willing to just jump, like. And part of one of my own healing journeys, that was like literally the voice. It was like, "Jump, nigga, jump!" Like, it was like, "What you gonna do?" Like, jump. It just happened. So that's my 2 cents.
That's solid advice.
Wow.
What you got, Rayna? Anything to add to that?
I would say, I mean, I agree. One of our great leaders always said to us, hurt people. And the truth of the matter is, when we are engaging in these relationships with people in organizations in our community, and they're being hurtful to other people who are of their family or of their neighborhoods and in our schools, it's usually, I can say, because of some trauma that they've experienced in their lifetime, in their childhood, or even something that their parents experienced, and then they had to go through that trauma in the household. Usually that's the case.
Yep.
And as Donkor said, if we're not willing to look at that and look at our own trauma and look at the earliest version of ourselves, and when we started to change, then all we're going to do is continue the cycle of hurt and pain and create systems that just embody what the man wants it to be. And so the hardest part, I would say, is to make the decision to go on a healing journey, because it's not easy, right? You have to admit that you are the problem. And once you realize you are the problem, that hurts. Like, you mean I'm the one that caused this to happen? I'm the one who's creating havoc in my family. I'm the reason why I'm not making the money that I want to make. I'm the reason why I'm getting sick. Like, when you realize you're the problem, it's painful. And then to keep going, to get to the point of restoring yourself and rebuilding and rebirthing something beautiful, that takes a lot of drive. It takes a lot of willingness, and it takes you having to be honest. And so, we talk about healing because that's our business. Healing is our business. That's what we do. That's our mission in life. And I truly believe once people get on that journey, they'll start making decisions that's in the best interest of themselves as an individual, which will then impact their community,
right,
and their neighborhoods and their families. Because I believe everyone's good at heart. And once they get back to that heart, they start to see what really matters. And the problem is no longer, oh, you want me in the classroom 15 hours a day, and you keep giving me bad evaluations. It's like, what about you allows yourself to be in that situation every single year, over and over and over again? What about you is not allowing yourself to be the best person you could possibly be?
right.
On some level, it's your choice, right? Truthfully, that's what I say, and that's what I do. And as a principal, as a leader of a school, I told my staff that. I told my staff, no, the problem is not the children, it's not the person next to you. The problem is you. And I wouldn't just leave them. I would also go on healing journeys with them. I would pay for them to go on these rites of passage experiences with me. Like, we were in circle together. We were doing the work together. And so, I'm not just saying, oh, this is what you need to do, go do it. It's like, no, I'm going to do it with you. And we're going to do it together. And we're going to build a stronger community. And we're going to do it for the people next to us and the families. And, I could keep going on and on and on. But the problem, and I hate to say it because it just sounds so mean, but
say it.
Once people realize that the problem is you, like the problem is me, then things will start to shift. When I started to say, oh man, I'm the reason why that happened. I'm the reason why, I can't get to the next step. Once I started to really look at what that is, questions started to come up like, well, you gonna say it or you gonna do it? Right? What you gonna do? You talking about it, but what you gonna do about it? Like, those were the real questions that I had to answer. And while I'm contemplating on it, I got my baby girls looking at me like, what's mommy gonna do?
What's mommy gonna do, for real?
And I think out of that, I think the worst part of it too is then as a spouse, the person who sees my shadows on a daily basis, even when I can't see them, they look, where I'm going. Exactly. It's like, I continue to betray myself, but as y'all already saw on this little hour and 23 minutes, she gonna put me on blast. So ain't no escaping. So it comes down to a point where it's like, you have to face that villain that lives within us. You know what I'm saying? And be willing to slay Goliath, and thank that part of ourselves. But it's like, yeah, you gotta go because you're not serving me, fam. Like, and it's not to say that, you turning your back on that part of yourself, because somewhere in your history, that part of yourself helped you to get to where you are. And I'm not saying like F you, but I'm just saying like, yo, listen, fam, like, I'm gonna need you to sit over here for a second, because that has not served us. And with what our divine mission is, I just gotta ask you to chill for a second. Like, let's get to this and this, and there'll be a place for you to wild out again, but just not right now.
By the way, that's him talking to himself, referring to himself.
Yes, it is. But he did it though. He did a great job. He did a great job. And
he did a great job.
And you know what? Is the most interesting thing about that? Being able to recognize that you don't have to completely cut something off in order for it to stop impacting who you are, right? Knowing that those things play a major part in who you are and how you got to where you are at this point in time. The crazy thing that comes to mind when I was listening to you speak, Rayna, once you say that it's you, now you have the power to change it, right? Compared to when we turn around and we like, it's everyone else. When we say it's other people, that means that the only way that life can change for us is if they change. And it's the craziest thing. The whole entire time over the past year or two, I found out so much stuff about myself. Like I went to my first call it, I don't know if I want to call it a riot or not, right? But I went to my first rally outside, and I had always said I felt like I wasn't the person to go to a rally, and it wasn't that I felt like it wasn't necessary. I just always felt like I was someone who could do work differently, or I could be more impactful in a different way. But I said I'm going outside. I'm going outside, and I was there, and people were talking, and at some point in time, I was like, I don't know if I want to talk to these people no more. And it wasn't the people that I was talking to. It was the people who they were stating their case for, whether it was the cops, whether it was the educational system. And it was just like, we're sitting here and we consistently tell these people these stories. And then somebody else dies. Somebody else gets their head bust. Somebody else gets beat up. Something else happens. And then at some point in time, you just have to say to yourself, what can we do amongst the people who are in this circle to change our lives? Because ultimately, trying to get everybody else to change is where the issue is. And I remember when I think I said to Jamal one day, I said, if they don't lock up, Chauvin, if they don't lock up Chauvin or whatever his name is, the cop from Minnesota, I said, man, we need to have a national disappearing day. Like, and just not even day, just days. Like people come outside, it's sort of like downtown Boston. You don't see no black folks. Like you just came outside and you just did not see no black folks nowhere. And I say that because I went to Boston for my anniversary, and I tell you no lie, it was just me and my wife.
Don't be disrespectful, bro.
Downtown with it,
bro. I was feeling your vibes.
I was in the wrong part of downtown.
Wait, what's that? Wait, I'm talking about with a restaurant are. With a restaurant are?
Like
no, I'm talking about with a restaurant. I'm talking about. Bro. Am I wrong? Where the harbor is?
Get back to the point. Get back to the point.
Huh? Jamal, am I wrong? I was there for 3 days. I went to all of these restaurants, and it was just me.
Get back to the
with
point.
My wife. All right.
You're losing us. We about to get again.
Listen, right? I truly felt. I said, you know what? We don't even have to get upset. We should just disappear. People sometimes don't appreciate you until you're gone.
That's right.
Yo, you see how that impactful that was on TikTok.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a prime example. They say y'all gonna stop stealing all our stuff, right? Like y'all sit up here, y'all don't even let people know where you got it from. You just think that we doing it. We're not our uncles and we're not our fathers who created all of these different genres out of love. Right? And I think sometimes that's the thing we got to think about as Black people and as people of color. We got to sit and we got to say, it's one thing to create something out of love. It's another thing to say, I'm going to create it and then create an industry. Like there's so many things that we're at the foundation of, but then we're just workers for. You know what I mean? So it's one of those situations where I just sit and I'm like, man, we really, at this point in time, I'm not talking about slavery. I'm not talking about Jim Crow. I'm talking about at this point in time when we look at how educated we are, how much money many of us have, whether it's salary, how many businesses folks have. At some point in time, we just got to sit and say, what are we willing to do for ourselves? Just period. And I got that from y'all.
And there's too many examples of that. I mean, the first one is, Master P. I mean, that brother is like phenomenal. Just to think of how many
those rap snaps are awesome. I'm telling you, trying. Yeah. I go grab some now. I got some Cardi B's in there. Them rap snacks are awesome. Rayna looking at me like, what you talking about? Try them. Go find them. I'm telling you, they awesome. But go ahead, my bad.
They had them in Boston.
Yeah, we don't have those.
Yeah, I know y'all don't got a lot of things out there.
We have
some people missing too.
Homegirl chips. That's what we have.
Right.
Yeah, homegirl.
Y'all got
chips.
Wise. Y'all got Wise, and only the original flavor.
Amanda said Rob must have been in the seaport.
Listen, that's where I was. I think that's what. No, that's where I was. I went to the restaurant, Jamal. Remember the restaurant with the blue lights? What's the name of it? The real expensive one. Where we spent like $2,000.
Yeah, the Oceanaire.
Where was y'all at?
The Oceanaire, right on.
The Oceanaire. We was at the Oceanaire, and it was a bunch of us there, and we never was able to go back again because the person said they're not paying for us again. But we spent a lot of money. But that's where I was. That's where I was, and that's sometimes how it is. We got to get to a Wakanda place, but I digress. But I agree. That ownership is key. That ownership is key. Hey,
even if it's not ownership, I just think if folks were willing to put their money where their principal was, we would be in a better position.
I'm stealing that. That's stolen.
So.
Yeah, money.
Well, we're gonna land this plane. We really, really, really appreciate. This was a dope conversation. There's people working in education. There's just people out there that's dealing with corporate trauma that may not even know what it is, that needed to hear what y'all both said tonight. And I
feel like we just hit the tip of the iceberg.
Y'all gotta come back. Back.
Yeah.
Y'all have an open invitation to this platform. Anytime anything may come up, anything you want to put out there, anything you want to introduce to the
Jamal, is there a way for like callers to like zoom in?
I gotta get back to you on that. Probably.
There is a way.
Yeah.
No, there is a way.
Definitely a way, right?
There is a way.
Don't quote me, but yeah, there's definitely a way. And because we want to highlight this type of activity that's outside the box, because people struggle because they think there's only one way. And it's almost like, we trying to wrestle and spend energy wrestling out of a wet paper bag when all you got to do is just walk through. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that you don't have to cut a wet paper bag. You just walk through it. And y'all are an example of what the walkout is like. Like, it's a walkout, and you don't have to put up with what you don't have to put up with. So we appreciate y'all. We thank y'all so much.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Final word.
No, I just want to. Rob had asked a question earlier around like, and I think this will be the final word about how we were able to kind of get here. And if I could turn my camera around, let me see if I can work this.
Don't show your age. He said, I don't know.
I'm trying to work this, John. Oh, Lord. All right, anyways. So where my wife is sitting right there, every year for Kwanzaa, in honor of the Haitian Revolution, one of the things that I often talk about is like too much time is spent on how do we kill the oppressor and get the oppressor off of our back, but not a lot of time is spent talking about what we're gonna do the day after we get our freedom. So my wife is gonna lift these up. So every year in January, my wife and we sit down and we do our individual goals, and then we come together as a collective. We have a meeting. Can I just finish this point real quick? And basically what we do is we find out, where are our agreements, where are the things that we can work on collaboratively, and we break it down into four different categories: family, finance, faith, and personal goals. And basically, one of the things I want to point out is like, in the first 10 years of doing this, all the years would be like mad thick and diesel. So we'd all come with these different things. And then, finally we got to a space where it was like, man, what's one thing we can work on together? What's one thing we could do to support our individual? I'm getting jumped, guys. I'm sorry. You poking me, sweetheart. One thing that we can work on to support the other's individual goals. This one here loves jujitsu, boy. But and then how do we support each other for that? Because ultimately, for my wife and I, we've been friends since she was 11 and I was 13. So like we've seen each other change a lot, but being able to communicate that and support one another through that, you know what I'm saying, has been huge. So I definitely want to kind of leave that out there, not only for the couples, but just even for individuals. Part of this practice, happened at, trying to make sure it was visual and we saw it and it was there as we walked in the house, as we get ready to go to sleep. It's like, nah, this is what the mission is. This is what we working towards. And I can't lie to you, the manifestation out of this simple practice has like, I mean, we can write a whole book on just how powerful that has been in transforming not only our individual circumstances but our family circumstance. And I really pray and wish that for all of our people, because we've had to survive enough already to the point where we can be in a position where we can be creating and not reacting to all of the traumas. So I'm being sequestered.
Beautiful, beautiful. Hey, look, this is a family show. You at home, and people need to see that. People need to see that, just like people need to see what you put on your annual gift. People need to see smart, intelligent, professional people, but also interacting with their family, because we coming into your house. They own that. We don't. So don't feel no type of way.
You
We
heard me
appreciate
say I'm the brand ambassador for the Dawn Firearms. These are the bosses right here. I just work for them.
that. Beautiful. Rayna, any final words?
I just want to say, I appreciate what you guys are doing, shedding light on a different perspective and a different narrative, which is really important for people to see and understand that there isn't just one model. And I appreciate that. I appreciate you all having the courage to do it, right? Because like you said, they got our phone tapped. So it takes a level of courage to say, despite whatever is happening, I'm going to allow people to hear that there's a different narrative outside of what corporate and organizational systems tell us is our only option. So thank you guys for that.
Oh, you're welcome. I told Rob when we first started, we ain't gonna be able to get no more jobs after this is done. All right. Well, we're gonna land this plane, Rayna and Don. We're gonna put you back into the green room. Y'all can stick around.
Wait 1 second. I want to share this really quick with the two of y'all.
Yeah.
And I want to speak this into existence on your show in front of you. And I want to push you two brothers, because Jamal, I've seen this kind of go from our conversations during our breaks at the school exactly to see where you are now. And I know if brother Rob is anything like you are, bro, I know this is a phenomenal combination. And I just want to speak this into existence, man. I really believe that from your Instagram and I'm positive from these shows that you guys have enough content to write a manual, and a book. And I just want to say to you two brothers before I go to sleep from this show, I would really love to see you all capture these ideas and thoughts and put it in a book for our people, so that way folks can listen to it on audio, or carry it in their hands, brothers, because what you all are doing is huge, not only for our individual survival, as individual people, but I think as a collective community, I would really, really love for you all to manifest that. And so I want to give that life. I want to give that energy. Okay. So you already with it. Let's go.
Hey, you said you gonna speak it, so from your lips to God's ears, beloved.
Get it done, man. I want to support you in any way. So, continue to do it. And like my wife said, thank you all so much. Love what y'all are doing.
All right.
Thank you as well. Thank you as well.
Thank you. Well, we're gonna land this plane. Like I said, y'all feel free to hang tight if you can. Man, Rob. Wow.
Yeah, I knew that was gonna be an awesome episode, bro. I knew it was, and it was definitely worth it. And I'm praying that a lot of folks will get the opportunity, and I know they will get the opportunity to listen and chime in and really dig into that. And something I didn't get the chance to say to them, they have a master class on what they have or what they do each and every Kwanzaa or each and every January. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. What they do as a family and as a duo, as a team, to figure out their goals, to figure out their aspirations, and to figure out where they're going, it goes a long way. And kudos to them. And I think that'll be my closing remarks for that. That was just awesome.
I really, man, I'm so inspired. Somebody out there needed to hear that, and I think that somebody was me. And I encourage, and I hope, Rob, that there were others that feel the same way that we do. They represent an important ideal in the paradigm shift. This is not your grandmother and your grandfather's corporate industrial complex. Um, Man, corporate America don't even exist no more. It's global America. And the educational system that supports it has been in question. And when you have talented, capable, passionate, loving individuals like those two that are willing to go the extra mile and they can't see space for it in their lives, that's a that's a message, that's a wake-up call for us all. So man, we're not going to hold you any longer. Corporate trauma community, thank you for all that are still on. Throw your comments and your likes in the engagement section. And Rob, don't mess it up this week. I'm gonna take it slow on this one this week. You said some stuff last week, so we're gonna take it slow this week. Listen, corporate trauma, Rob, is a sneaky passive trauma that will creep up on you. And when it does,
it's time to level up.
It's time to level up. Last week, Rob said, kick their ass. Nah, Rob, no, that's not what you're supposed to do. Hey, y'all, have a great evening. We'll see y'all again next week. Much love. Thank you.
Yes.